This is Zom 100, and its first episode has blown the community out of the water. Currently, it is competing, soloing, no diffing some very big giants within the community. At this current time, it's Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. That's impressive. Now, if you were to tell me this, I probably wouldn't believe you, so you probably don't believe me, right? But the more I heard about this name, the more I seen people talk about it, the more people share their absolute excitement and joy for this first episode, it caught my attention. I was hooked. And I went to check it out, and I can see why people are so excited for this show. Now, whether or not it continues to be the visually stunning masterpiece that the first episode was throughout its whole season, its whole run, I'm not entirely sure. As we know, the industry is overworked, underpaid, understaffed, and sometimes one episode could be really good, and then the next episode can be struggling. What I can say, however, is that I agree with a lot of the reception towards Zom 100 in its first episode, because when I watched it, I didn't know what I was going to get. I know nothing about this show. I've never heard of the manga. I've never even heard of this name before. I actually thought it was something else. Upon watching it, even though the story is kind of perfectly fine, it operates on its own, there's nothing revolutionary that you haven't seen before, the visual aesthetic behind it is gorgeous. Like, it's breathtaking. That alone, I think, is enough to warrant you to watch it. Even if you're not a fan of zombies, I'm not the biggest fan, I still thoroughly had a great time with it. And I'm very much excited to see where the rest of this season goes and how artistically it wants to explore different avenues. See, this is our main character, and he is what would be known as a corporate zombie. It really punches down this idea that big corporations do not care about their employees. Obviously very ironic coming from the anime industry. I'm sure it's like this on purpose. Really wants to get it into your head. Artistically, it does everything to paint it in the worst light possible. And it's not just jumping straight into the deep end, but you notice the main character being fresh and energetic about starting a new job, slowly starting to just lose himself, to become this husk, hollowed version of himself that has no drive, no will to live, nothing to really bring happiness or joy. So he is at his ending point. He does not want to do this anymore. He does not want to work. He does not want to live, but he is so far gone that even trying to take his own life is something that he can't do. That is how deeply rooted he is within this corporate abuse. He's tired. He's done. But a zombie outbreak would actually happen, a fantasy of his, and this would reignite his will to live, his spark, his drive. He feels happy and free from those corporate shackles, now within this zombie overthrown world. So much so that he now has a bucket list. The 3 years that he spent within this corporation slaving away, he is now doing all the things that he wanted to do within a zombie apocalypse. It's like flipping those reversals thematically, and it's very obvious, but it's beautifully handled in my opinion, right? The first half of this episode takes place in the corporate space. So you see how bright and energetic our main character is, and the colors within the show reflect that. They pop out a lot. But over time, they start to dull, very slightly. The further you get into each year of this corporate working, the colors lose their brightness. They start to become a lot more dull. They start to fade away until the point that the show is entirely black and white, or at least just about. Everything is just fully monochrome, fully grayed out, and quite obviously, even though it's on the nose, a clear representation of his own health, that he is becoming the slave, a zombie to this corporation, working overtime, not eating properly, not sleeping enough, and just realistically being so absorbed into this toxic work culture that he can't escape from, so much so that his own death is something that he can't achieve. I appreciate this a lot artistically because it's super entertaining, super fun, but I also enjoy how the story takes a couple of steps more into this idea of corporate abuse and more so how the employees intermingle with one another, right? You'll always have corporations and bigwigs try to manipulate, abuse, and just shorten deadlines as much as possible, right? But a lot of the toxicity also comes from former employees. And it's not the employee's fault, but it's more so this mindset or grindset that has taken place where it's very infectious. So it comes from the corporate overlords, if you will, down to the employees, and then the employees out to other employees. And this is kind of how our main character gets absorbed into this lifestyle. They want to compete within their own misery pockets. Oh, I've worked 100 hours overtime. Pfft, no big deal. I've worked 200 hours of overtime. I haven't eaten in 4 days. Well, I haven't eaten in 5. It's almost like this competition on who's the worst off, and that being equaled out to how much work they're actually doing. Very clearly extremely detrimental, disgusting, and something that is very much abused in real life. So it's going to hit pretty close to home for a lot of people that potentially find themselves within this position even slightly. Like crunching, for example, or overtime, or even the anime industry, which is where this is inspired from, is closely, if not directly, identical to this situation right here. And you probably think, how is this even legal? Like, how do people get away with this? And it's like, they do. A lot of companies can, and it's a sad reality that shouldn't be a thing. Your company does not operate or move or even make money without the hardworking people underneath, so why treat them like ants? Why treat them like insects? Now, I could be pulling this statistic out of nowhere, but I believe it's already proven to be more beneficial work-wise, money-wise, lifestyle-wise, that if you treat your employees better, provide a better environment, a better incentive, a healthier go-to, they will work better, work harder, and work longer for many years to come. They will be happy to work for your company, and you build that loyalty, which is something that can't even be measured by money. This is a pretty standard thing, right? So you're going to see a lot of it within the first half of the episode. The visual identity that backs it, however, gorgeous. That black and white, monochrome, kind of zombie-like expression, very fitting to what is going on. Now that black and white filter is super playful when it starts to disappear. So when the zombie outbreak happens, which you don't really get any explanation for, nor do you really need, it's kind of just there. Our MC doesn't believe it at first. He doesn't know what's going on, but he sees blood on the ground and it's colored differently. It's like a pink and a blue and a green, and like more he sees of it, the more color starts to come back into his life. So what was a black and white filter to represent his kind of despair into this corporate zombie-like state is now starting to liven up again because of the literal zombie outbreak. So the more zombie he sees, the more blood he sees, the more unreal things that he sees. It's all different colors. And when it finally clicks within his head, this is a zombie outbreak, the first thought that frees him from everything, that brings this overwhelming sense of joy and ecstasy and the color of the show actually back into frame, is when he realizes he doesn't have to work anymore, that the world is going to be in ruins. He's free from his shackles, and for the first time in many years, you see him happy, you see him thriving, you see all of this beautiful color, and it's accompanied by some quality, beautiful framework, animation, compositing, every describing technical term you want to use for animation, it is there. This isn't just some stale one-off thing where it's like, oh, here's him over here, here's him running, here's here jumping over zombies. No, there is genuine emphasis, identity, and character, charisma going into each and every single scene, and you don't really get to see that often. This is not something that is make or break for anime. They can cut corners, they can make things look very simple and easy by all means, but the first episode, it sells you very well. It is super creative, and it helps that the main character used to be an athlete, so all of that is given to you when he finally finds his drive. There's like a really cool sequence where he's running away from the zombies, and it is flashy. It is gorgeous how much direction is being emphasized here. And I really want to bring forward that when I say animation, right? Fluidity is one thing. Good animators can make fluid motion look amazing, right? Direction, however, identity, the actual style of the shot, how it's visually approached and seen, comes with interpretation, comes with creativity, and you will see a lot of that within this show. There's so many unique shots, so many unique framing techniques, sequences at play that really elevate the show far beyond than what it should be. And this isn't a bad thing. I say should be in the sense that you wouldn't expect it from this type of show. Like, oh, it's just a zombie show, but not anymore. It is so much more, and it has so much more to offer. Like, I want to watch this, not necessarily for the story, even though it kind of serves its purpose, it's perfectly fine, but just to see how creative they actually get with the animation. I don't necessarily get that excitement often. And don't get me wrong, Kaizen is beautiful, Bleach is beautiful, all these other animes are beautiful, but something as simple as this, that doesn't really have much of a fan base, or at least, isn't as relevant as some of these other giants, is doing so incredibly well to compete against them. It is soloing all of them for no reason, just because it can. Is it able to keep up with them, however? Is it able to continue with this type of visual identity that it has now for the potential 12 episodes that it has? I'm not too sure how long it is. I truly hope so. Like I said before, even if you don't like zombies, I recommend watching this first episode. You will be blown away. You will be absolutely speechless just by how much it really wants to do and how creative it is. For me, it was fun, lovable, something that I can look forward to every single week, hopefully for the rest of the season, and hell, I might even check out the manga for it. I'm sure a lot of you have your own thoughts on this show, so I'd love to hear them. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, it supports me a ton, and I would greatly appreciate it.